the outskirts of the realm of metal, or the realm of metal perhaps, the Wanderers and the Sylvaneth have spread their seed. The shoots of life have burst forth from the earth. Trees, where once there were none, now stand. However, the local Orruk population are not too thrilled with this at all, and they've made it their mission to burn every last tree to the ground, driving the Wanderers back whence they came, into the Realm Gate. Well, there's your backstory, folks. Now, as you can see, this is a still image battle report, which can only mean one thing. It was played at Warhammer World, where video is prohibited. So, complying with the rules and regulations, Mr. Remington and I put on this wonderful game, you can see here, with the very luscious forests that were scavenged from various tables and placed on this one. Mr. Remington taking control of the Orruks at the top of your picture, and at the bottom we have the forces of the Sylvaneth, controlled by me. And in the centre we have a unicorn, but we'll get to him very shortly. But first of all, the scenario. So, the Orruks want to torch these Sylvaneth wildwoods to the ground. There are 5 of them, and their goal is to see that none of them are standing at the end of the game, which will be 5 turns. To set fire to the woods, what the Orruks will have to do is to attack them, and if they roll a 6 to wound, then the forest will catch fire and burn down. Now, each model will only be allowed 1 attack each when they are taking on the forests. However, they will be granted additional attacks for each point of rend that they have. So it balances it out a little bit, so some of the bigger, beefier characters can potentially dish out some pain to the woods. Each Sylvaneth wildwood, when it's in the state of being burnt down, will lose its status as a Sylvaneth wildwood, which means that any bonuses that it would administer to the nearby Sylvaneth units will no longer apply while it is in a state of being burnt down. There is a chance for the forests to regrow though, and that's where Cecil the magical unicorn comes in, because he can spray forth rejuvenating liquid from his magical horn, which can bring back one of the woods on the roll of a 6. So just from this picture here, it may not look like the Sylvaneth have a particularly huge amount of models, but you'll see why that may swell as we go through the armies. So let's start at the top with the Orruks, shall we? So we're starting on the top right hand corner of the table here, and they have Savage Orcs with bows, and next to them they have Savage Orcs with close combat weapons. Next to Azhag the Slaughterer, a personal favourite of Mr. Remington, and as we move down, you can see that he's got 3 trolls, ready to vomit, 5 boar boys, one of which is still horrendously rectangular based, he needs to remedy that at some point, and the Squig Gobber, which we were using as a stone thrower. Now, we were talking to some of the staff at Warhammer World about the atrocious rules for that thing, but unfortunately we weren't able to get the information out of them that would have led us to the whereabouts of the person that conceived those rules. And you can see he's got a boss with a banner just sitting on top of the tower observing. He won't be taking any part in the game, but he will be looking on, casting an eye over it. On to the forces of the Sylvaneth. So, first of all, we have a unit of Dryads. In the middle there, we have a Branch Wraith and a Tree Lord Ancient. Now, I'm fully aware that that is not a tree, but we were working with the models available. So this tree is in fact so ancient that he's turned into a rather tall-looking elf man with antlers. And then we have a regular Tree Lord in a very dramatic pose as well. And then on the other side we have another unit of 7 Dryads. So not a huge amount in the Sylvaneth army, but of course the Branch Wraith is capable of summoning up further units should the need arise. And there is Cecil the magical unicorn in all his glory. Now Cecil cannot be attacked, because he has actually coated his body in a special kind of tree sap that is very similar to grease. So there's no way of catching him, he's too slippery, all he can do is go around spraying the burnt down forests with his magical horn and the rejuvenating liquid. So he just starts in the middle of the table and he's going to be running around causing havoc, no doubt.
Some dirty stinking trees have come into our lands. I say we burn them down.
I'm a tree! Now look at me!
Well, hello there. My name is Cecil, the magical unicorn. Nothing invigorates quite like my horn juice.
And you can see the lovely foam orange dice representing the turn of the game. So, turn 1. And as the cry of Remington went up, he rolled a 6. It seems what they say, that the Games Workshop Skull Dice gain additional powers while in the hallowed grounds of Warhammer World. That is actually true. So that means that the Orruks are going to go first. And the first thing they do, obviously, they start charging forwards with all their troops. In true Orruk fashion, the trolls and the boar boys there. You can see that Azhag hasn't flown too far up, because he has learned his lesson from some previous games, where Azhag put himself in a bit of a dangerous position very early on and got literally toasted in the first couple of turns. So he hasn't overcommitted him, but he has gone almost halfway into the table, and you can see the Savage Orcs there, who are poised to try and burn down that forest right off the bat. And here you can see, in the shooting phase, that the Savage Orcs with bows have actually set fire to this forest already, by rolling a 6 to wound it. So, putting the Sylvaneth on the back foot very early on there. And I believe that was all that was accomplished in the Orruks' turn. I don't think the Savage Orcs managed to successfully beat up the other forest. So just one of them on fire so far, going into Sylvaneth turn 1. And first things first, the Tree Lord, as you can see there, rolled a double 1 when trying to cast a spell, which is always fun. So he failed there. And the Tree Lord Ancient, who is the general for this game, put his Inspiring Presence onto these Dryads, so they're going to be ignoring Battle Shock. You can see here that the regular Tree Lord has moved up towards the burnt forest, ready to take some sweet vengeance out upon those Savage Orc archers. And here you can tell this is the centre of the table, because there's Cecil, the magical unicorn, and a unit of Dryads have moved up, and you can just see the tip of Azhag's base up there as well, next to Cecil, the magical unicorn. So there's going to be a bit of a showdown right there. And in fact, there's a nice close-up of Cecil, right next to Azhag, just taunting him almost, and making his way towards the burnt-out forest, of course, hoping that he can administer some refreshing, revitalising juice from his horn to bring those trees back to life. You can see there the Tree Lord Ancient is moving up as well, in the direction of that central forest with the trolls in the top left there. And in our next image you can see that these Dryads are being quite brave as well. They're facing up to those boar boys with the trolls right in close proximity as well. Not wasting any time, the Sylvaneth, because, just to let you in on a little tactical insight here, these are the only Dryad models that Mr. Remington owns. I borrowed his army for this game. So I knew for a fact that the Branch Wraith couldn't actually raise anything until I'd lost models. So I wasn't exactly going all out kamikaze, but I wasn't really preserving my troops particularly. That wasn't at the forefront of my mind. I was more concerned with just getting them out there, getting into the fight, and if they die, whoop-de-doo, I'll bring some more back. So in the shooting phase, the regular Tree Lord unleashed with his shooting attack at the Savage Orruk archers, and you can see that a few of them were felled by it. And look at this! The Tree Lord Ancient, who is quite a combat monster, rolled a double 6 to charge. So with that, he went straight into Azhag. So has Mr. Remington left himself wide open again, very early in the game with Azhag the Slaughterer? It's looking like he has. When a Tree Man Ancient rolls a 12-inch charge, you know you're in for some serious trouble. You might even say it's time to leave. And another nice charge roll here with these Dryads. They rolled a 9, which meant they were able to make it into the boar boys. So, Mr. Remington thought he'd left himself far enough away not to be attacked in turn 1, but a couple of high rolls, and I'm right up there, slugging it out with the Orruks. So, in the close combat phase, the Tree Lord Ancient, of course, activated first, and look at that. He's taken quite a few wounds off Azhag already. I think he's down to 6 right there, if I can read the image properly. So, he has been diminished in his abilities. However, this did, of course, allow the boar boys to activate next, as Mr. Remington chose to do so, and he took out a few of the Dryads. The Dryads aren't particularly tough in Age of Sigmar. They seem to have got a little bit weaker from previous editions, but of course there is the ability to raise them. The Dryads activated next, and all they could do is put 1 wound on a boar boy, so that fight isn't exactly going in my favour. But I'm not overly concerned right now. I'm tying up the boar boys, stopping them burning down the forests for now, and hopefully I can bring back some more Dryads when they're dead. Azhag strikes back at the Tree Lord Ancient. Knocked him down to 9 wounds. Those Tree Lords are really beastly in combat. Until you start to diminish their abilities, they are absolutely monstrous. All next to Cecil the magical unicorn, of course, who is just standing there, quite proud and glorious. The Dryads rolled a 2 for their battle shock, which meant that no further casualties were taken. Also in the battle shock phase, Mr. Remington happened to roll a 5 for his Savage Orruk archers, and 3 more of them have gone away by the looks of it. So panicked, at the tree roots popping up and pulling them under. Moving on to turn 2, and as the cry of Remington went up this time, it did no good. As you can see, a 4 for the Sylvaneth, 2 for the Orruks. So the Sylvaneth are going to have 2 turns in a row here. So let's see whether I could capitalise on that, shall we? So first things first, I was successfully able to cast Mystic Shield this time, and also prevent them from taking Battle Shock again. At this point, the Branch Wraith decides to run into the forest a little bit for a bit of protection, because she is under some potential threat from various places, including Azhag. If he doesn't take too much damage, then next turn he could potentially fly over towards her, which she wouldn't like. And of course there are some Savage Orruk archers floating around as well. The majority of the Sylvaneth units do get some kind of bonus when they are close to the wildwoods, and also just being wholly in terrain as well inherently will grant you a better armour save. You can see that the unit of Dryads there have moved up towards Azhag as well, really closing in on him. And that Tree Lord is right there as well. So it's not looking too healthy for Azhag at the moment. He's being very much surrounded. Landing potentially too close to the enemy, and then the enemy getting 2 turns in a row. That's a really bad combo if you're a big monster like that. And oh so close in this turn, Cecil the Unicorn rolled a 5, couldn't quite reinvigorate the earth and sprout fresh trees up in the smouldering ashes of the burnt out wildwood. Maybe next time. And here's the result of the charging phase. The Dryads and the regular Tree Lord have both got into Azhag. He's already dealing with the Tree Lord Ancient, so you suspect he's going to get absolutely smushed. And of course that's exactly what happens. The Tree Lord goes first, because he's not been diminished at all, because he's unwounded. So he thought he might as well have a go at swinging first, and he just completely obliterated what was left of Azhag in one fell swoop. Poor Azhag. Moving into Orruk turn 2, and you can see that what's left of the Savage Orruk archers have started to work their way up towards Cecil the Unicorn there. Obviously they can't attack him because he's too slippery and mystical, but they can go for some of the forests further down, which is what they're aiming to do. The regular Savage Orruks, including the big stabber, are poised next to this forest. Presumably they're going to have a go at setting that on fire shortly as well. And in the shooting phase, the Squig Gobber, with the Rocklobber rules of course, unleashes and rolls a 6 on one of the wildwoods, so sets fire to it. Oh dear. So that's 2 of them up in flames now. If he can take down 1 per turn, and I don't manage to heal one of them, then that's going to be enough for him to take the game. And in the close combat phase you can see, first things first, the Boar Boys completely shred the remaining Dryads over on the left-hand side of the battlefield. And then another blow for the Sylvaneth, because another wildwood was taken out. The Savage Orruks, with their torches, managed to set the forest ablaze, and up it goes in smoke. And you can see with a little bit of an overview here that 3 of them have gone down already. So unless Cecil the Magical Unicorn can start bringing some new life to those burnt out husks, it's not looking good right now for the Sylvaneth. Moving into turn 3, and as the shout of Remington goes up, it pays off again. So 2 turns in a row for the Orruks this time. Can they capitalise? So first things first, the Savage Orruk archers move up a little bit, past Cecil the Magical Unicorn. The Boar Boys charge into the remaining wildwood, and the Trolls are making their way over towards the other remaining wildwood, which is the one that's currently housing the Branch Wraith. And skipping ahead to the close combat phase, so obviously the Savage Orruk archers didn't do anything, so the Boar Boys do manage to set fire to the wildwood, rolling a 6 to wound. So this is not looking good at all. That's 4 forests down, only 1 remaining, so the revitalising juices spewing forth from Cecil the Magical Unicorn's horn are really going to have to come into play, otherwise the Sylvaneth are not going to have much of a chance here. Into the Sylvaneth turn 3, and the first thing the Branch Wraith does is immediately summon forth a new unit of Dryads. Now you can see that they have to be put in this wildwood because all the others have been burnt down, so she doesn't really have much of a choice regarding where to summon them. So the Tree Lord Ancient, I believe he used an arcane bolt, or he may have used one of his own spells, but regardless, he put some seriously tremendous damage onto the trolls. One of them is down to 1 wound there, as you can see. And he also put his Inspiring Presence onto the unit of Dryads in the central area. The regular Tree Lord also used a spell, which may well have been Arcane Bolt, and finished off that troll and put a wound onto the next troll as well. So those trolls have been severely weakened, and you can see that Cecil the Magical Unicorn, his horn is ineffective yet again. He could not roll a 6 to reinvigorate this land at all. So, still smouldering wreckage. He's just going to continue to squeeze those juices out of his horn until something good happens, but not yet. In the charge phase, the Tree Lord Ancient, who has of course been a little bit wounded, rolls an 11 on his charge distance and makes it into the trolls. He is really eager to put a stop to this Orruk incursion into these freshly acquired Sylvaneth Wanderer lands, because he has been rolling like a beast for his charges. You can see here that the Dryads charged into the savage Orruk archers. In close combat, the Tree Lord Ancient goes first and kills both the trolls. These guys are beasts in close combat. I think I may have already said that, but it can't possibly be stated enough. They are monsters. And the savage Orruk archers decided to get the first blow in on the Dryads and took one of them down. But when the Dryads struck back, they killed 2, which left only 2 remaining, and ultimately, in the battle shock phase, 2 of them ran for the hills, and wisely so, because they were about to get absolutely slaughtered if they'd stuck around, I would say. Going into turn 4, and the cry of Remington goes up again. And it pays off again! A 5 on the skull dice. Within those Warhammer World walls, there's certainly something in the air that seems to help the GW branded dice. So the boar boys have started marching their way across, trying to get into the midst of the battle, and the savage Orruks have all swarmed around the Tree Lord Ancient, who's only got 9 wounds left, remember, so they could potentially whittle him down severely this turn. So the Squig Gobber / Rock Lobber fired its load into the air, and when it came back down, it rolled a 6 on the final Sylvaneth Wildwood. So unless Cecil the Magical Unicorn can reinvigorate some of those forests before the end of the game, it's going to be all over. But the fact that he is still out there means I've still got a chance. So this is of course the forest that's housing the Branch Wraith and the Dryads, and with all the Wildwoods down, that means I'm not going to be able to do any more summoning for the moment, even if I had enough models to do it. But also it means a lot of my units aren't going to be getting any benefits from being close to a Wildwood, so that could be very bad. Now, as you can see, the Savage Orruks whittle down the Tree Lord Ancient quite significantly. He's only down to 4 wounds here, so he's not quite as potent anymore. His attacks have lost a little bit of their punch, a little bit of their bite. You might say that his bark is actually worse than his bite as it slowly crumbles off his body. And then in return, because he's so diminished, he only manages to kill 1 of them. Oh dear, oh dear. Moving into Sylvaneth, turn 4. And first things first, the Tree Lord Ancient, he uses a spell and manages to kill a couple of boar boys. That's a good start. You can see there that the Dryads have emerged from their forest, where the Branch Wraith dwells, and they're going to be immune to battle shock this turn, as denoted by the marker from Litco Tokens and Accessories. The other Dryads have come down off the hill since they finished off the Savage Orruk archers, and they're going to try and get back into the fight, and you can see Cecil still up there. In fact, here's a close-up of Cecil, and no, he rolls a 5 again, so he's only going to have 1 more chance to squirt forth his wonderful rejuvenating liquid. It's not been effective so far, but he's got 1 more go to try and do it, so it's not all over yet. The regular Tree Lord, I believe this would have been a spell, he put a wound onto a boar boy, and then he charged into the Savage Orruks. So they've got a couple of different Tree Lords to deal with now, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. In the combat phase, the Tree Lord Ancient decided that he might be about to die, so he should probably activate first, and he took down 2 of the Savage Orruks. So not a bad way to go down, you got to go down swinging. But as you can see, they did manage to finish him off, and the big stabber, I think, probably got the final wound there, as it's being stylishly posed by Mr. Remington over the fallen Tree Lord Ancient. And they also got the regular Tree Lord down to 11 wounds. They did a tiny little amount of damage to him, but all that did was get him angry, and look at this horrible mess. He just kills all of them. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Tree Lords kick some serious buttocks in close combat. So of course no need for battle shock because they're all dead. Moving into the final turn. Now, this is quite an interesting point in the game because I don't think I wanted to go first here. Because Cecil can't die. So if I go last, I would have a chance to rejuvenate one of the forests without him having an opportunity to set it on fire again. So I was kind of hoping to roll low here. So as the shout of Remington went up yet again, this time, the one time I didn't want to go first, I managed to roll 5, and the skull dice only rolled a 2. So it's not necessarily that the powers of Warhammer World cause the skull dice to roll high, it's the fact that they cause them to roll what you're looking for. But look at that, Cecil the magical unicorn! The rejuvenating juices freshly squeezed from his majestic horn in the centre of his forehead ooze out all over the forest. Sparks fly up from the ground, pixies fly, weaving together reality. And what's this? Trees before our very eyes. Cecil, you finally lived up to your name. You are indeed magical. Has Cecil won the game for the Sylvaneth? The Orruks are going to have one more turn to try and set this wildwood back ablaze, but they will have to roll a 6 to do it, and they're not going to have a lot of troops left. You can see here that the Tree Lord and the Dryads have just piled in there on the Boar Boys because they don't want to take any chances. They want to kill as much as possible. The Tree Lord, of course, is the first one to activate because he's a monster, and he wants to get in there before he diminishes a little bit, and he slaps 2 of them down in one fell swoop. The surviving Boar Boy does nothing, and then when the Dryads activate, he is also dead. So, look at that scene there. All the Boar Boys dead. So the Orruks, right now, I think all they have left is the mighty Squig Gobber / Rock Lobber. So, in Mr. Remington's final turn, he has one chance to set fire to the Sylvaneth Wildwood that Cecil the Unicorn has just rejuvenated. Now, because the Rock Lobber has a rend of 2, that means that it has 3 attacks to shoot at the Wildwood, and it actually hit with all of them. So all he needs to do is roll 1 6 on 3 dice to set fire to those woods, and we're going to refer to the next image now to see whether he did it or not. And you better believe that he was shouting Remington as he was rolling these dice. And look at that, he got the 6 he needed. 2 2s and a 6. As you can see, the forest has been set ablaze. Cecil the magical unicorn's reinvigorating juices wasted, and Mr. Remington was all too eager to pose the Squig Gobber next to the forest that it managed to set fire to. You can see the final state of play here. Barely any Orruks alive, only the Squig Gobber, quite a few Sylvaneth, but all the forests set fire to. So you know what that means. The Wanderers have been pushed back. Their expansion into the realm of metal has been cut short for now. They'll have to rethink their strategy. They'll have to go away, lick their wounds, apply some tree sap, perhaps. And there is the forlorn figure of Cecil the magical unicorn, who weeps a single rainbow tear from his eyeball. His precious juices of life were not enough on this day to bring victory to the Sylvaneth. But he will return. Cecil the magical unicorn will be back.
Did you see that, boys? Boys? Oh, Squiggo, we're the only ones left. Oh well.
I'll get you next time, you filthy Orruks, or my name isn't Cecil the magical unicorn.